Hello and welcome. India's IT sector and the stocks witnessed a massive sell off in trade today after Accenture's weak guidance sparked fears and led to the entire meltdown. While the losses were narrowed at close, what should investors brace for given the wild swings in trade today? Well, to decode all of that, we have Pranjal Kamra, CEO of finology.in, joining us for an exclusive interaction. Pranjal, thank you for your time. Well, I'd like to begin by asking you what, to your mind, is the best and worst case scenario for the IT sector in the near term, given the wild swings we have seen in trade today?
Right. Specifically talking about the long term scenario, I wouldn't paint the entire IT sector with the same brush. I would actually bifurcate the bigger two or three IT companies. We need to understand that these are companies, the top three IT companies, top four IT companies, which have generated enormous free cash flow in the last 2, 3 decades. Enormous. And they are in a better position to brace for the structural changes that the industry is undergoing because they have the cash muscle, the balance sheet strength to actually pivot, to actually acquire smaller, more nimbler companies and actually align themselves to where the IT sector is going. But I would worry about the newer, smaller companies which don't have that capability to make quick pivots. So any company that has good free cash flow, I'll not be too worried about them in the long run.
Okay, fair enough. That's a long run scenario. But is AI disrupting the traditional business model that earlier worked for global IT and consulting majors altogether?
See, definitely. I mean, in terms of their cost structure, we have seen that hiring has slowed down. So, in terms of their cost structure, the highest, cost component for these IT companies were employees, and that pie will change gradually over the years, where we see that their token costs will rise and their employee cost will not rise proportionately or as how they have increased in the last 2 decades. So their cost structure will definitely change, and that is the structural change that the industry is going through. uh, I don't, it's hard to predict that what it'll do to its profitability in the long run. Why? Because right now the cost of tokens are also subsidized by the bigger LLM players, be it Chat GPT, Gemini. We don't know 5 years down the line what will be the actual cost of these tokens and what will be the margin that these companies will then take. So, today, the token versus employee cost, it looks highly favorable in the favor of tokens. But right now, the cost of tokens are subsidized, the cost of humans are not. 5 years down the line, it could also happen that that shift happens actually at a slower pace than what it looks like right now. So it's very uncertain.
Right, and you mean AI in particular for our viewers to understand when you're talking about that token versus human scenario at the moment.
Right.
Isn't it ironic then, Pranjal, that Accenture is warning about AI disruption while being one of the biggest AI implementation partners?
But Accenture is right, and it needs to be worried because think about it. What if companies need these partners at a lesser scale? And what if implementation turns out to be a one-time job? And from the maintenance part, the in-house teams take care. So they need to be worried because the scale at which these IT services company acted as solution providers to the MNCs of the world, the scale might reduce because a lot of things that these partners outsourced can actually now be done in-house. So their pie could actually reduce. So they're right in being worried.
So you're saying they're right in being worried, but then what would you say for Indian IT majors like the likes of Infosys and TCS, which witnessed major
Right.
meltdown in trade today? What would be your sense on the Indian IT majors going forward?
Right. So there's a specific answer and there's a broader answer. Broader answer, when an industry is going through a structural shift and you don't know which way the tide will turn and who the eventual winner will be, I like to stay on the sidelines. But this is a slightly different case because one, I told you specifically the top two companies, they generate enormous free cash flow and they are free to deploy it, which is one reason why we have seen good dividends and repeated buybacks from these companies, because they don't know where to deploy. So they might end up with use cases where they end up acquiring a dozen companies, pivoting. So I will not be too worried about the top two companies. Also, we need to see that, the valuations are okay. The valuations are not stretched at all. So specifically these two companies in the long run, I am not someone who invests personally a lot in the IT sector. I think it's out of my circle of competence. That is another thing. If as an investor, you don't understand IT services, then don't gamble. Don't buy just because the stocks are falling. If you know someone in your family who has worked in the industry, if you have worked in the industry, if you know people who can guide you about these companies, and then make an informed call. I wouldn't just enter the industry trying to catch a falling knife. That's not what you do when the industry and the business is out of your circle of competence. But I wouldn't be worried about the top two companies.
Right, but in a sense, what you're saying is don't gamble in IT services right now. If you're an investor, that is your advice. Thank you so much for this exclusive interaction and for sharing your thoughts. Thank you for your time.
Pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.